and learning, focus on e-learning. So it's under the theme of investigating the integration of ICT in Algerian educational programs. So the presentation plan is as follows. We start by the introduction, mentioning the problematic, and then the hypothesis, methodology of the presentation or of the study, discussion, and then conclusion with recommendations. As an introduction, so although online teaching and hybrid learning had already exist for several years, they spread remarkably during the COVID-19 health crisis. So this surge in the adoption of this new way of teaching was both mandatory and novel. Mandatory because it was impossible to leave learners without any means of teaching and learning throughout the pandemic period. And novel because in the Algerian context, this approach was previously reserved for a specific group, especially when I say specific group, I mean university professor, companies, organizations, and ministries. So, but it expanded to reach all levels of education during the spread of the COVID-19. Before the hypothesis, I'd like to mention too that online teaching and the use of the platforms have generated a great deal of discussion, with efforts made to identify the most common platforms in universities. The criteria for choosing one platform over another, their histories, as well as their advantages and disadvantages. Thus, the core of our research question can be summarized as follows. What are the most widely used platforms in Algerian universities? What are the benefits and challenges faced by teachers and students when using those platforms? And at last, where do we stand today after the return of to traditional classroom teaching? So two hypotheses were formulated to answer these questions. Online learning may not have been used appropriately in Algerian universities because neither group, teacher nor students, was trained in the use of its techniques. Both groups, I mean teacher and students, may feel that online learning is not limited to the use of Moodle platform. So, the current global health crisis is impacting higher education. Indeed, the University of Algeria, or in general, universities in Algeria, like many other universities worldwide, faces two major challenges: combating the spread of the COVID-19 virus and ensuring the continuity of education. So, to address this exceptional situation, the university has adopted a hybrid teaching approach, so alternating between periods of in-person teaching and online education, that is e-learning. During online education, instruction is delivered remotely and involves the use of information and communication technologies, that's an abbreviation of ICT. According to Charlie, e-learning is what? Is a system that combines educational and technological tools. So an interview was conducted online. So it was done via a messenger call with 5/3 medical students from Mustafa bin Boulid University in Batna too, okay, which of course exists in Algeria. So we selected these students because they experienced hybrid teaching during the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically in their first year of university during the second semester. So we have the first university, University of Soukahras. So we conducted an in-person interview with 5 third-year biology students at Mohammed Sharif Misadi University in Soukahras, who had already taken online courses via video conferencing for 2 years. Another university, which is University of Msila, an interview was conducted with students from the English department at Mohammed Boudiaf University of Msila. We move now to the analysis of results. Analysis of the results for both in-person and online teaching. So the interviews conducted with 15 students and 6 teachers from 3 different universities across the country allowed us to obtain the following results. So these are both the questionnaire for students and the questionnaire for teachers. So different questions were distributed in different aspects, in different areas. So I can read such questions for the students. Do you prefer face-to-face, online, or hybrid learning, and why? What are the different platforms used to study during the pandemic period? Do you think that online courses offered were effective or, on the contrary, difficult to absorb? Question 4, has online learning helped you develop skills that you didn't have beforehand? 5, would you like to repeat the experience of online classes? Did you receive any training on how to use a model? Is it necessary to have one? 6, is it sufficient to only have PDF format courses, or do you also need online classes, and why? The last question for students, did you encounter any access difficulties with the Moodle platform? And there are also 4 questions were distributed to teachers. The first one was online teaching effective for you as an instructor, or did you encounter difficulties in conducting it? Do you believe that distance teaching has more advantages or more disadvantages for students learning? The next one, did this experience enrich your professional journey? And the last question, did you encounter any access difficulties with the Moodle platform? So as you can see, the majority of students prefer in-person teaching. 8 students justifying this preference by their need for the physical presence of the teacher and in-class explanations. We observe a similar result among the teachers. 5 teachers who opted for in-person teaching due to various drawbacks they encountered with online teaching during their experience over the past few years. At the same time, 4 students chose online learning, considering it more convenient financially and time-saving, especially for those who cannot easily travel to the university. However, none of the teachers selected distance learning, except for one who favored the hybrid model, suggesting an alternation between the 2 methods. According to this teacher, each approach has its own advantages that should be utilized. So the platform used in each university. So the Moodle platform is the most widely used in all these 3 universities. According to the respondents, additionally, we were informed that teachers also make use of other applications such as Google Meet, Google Classroom, WebEx, and Zoom to conduct video conferences. Okay, as you can see here, classifications of the preferred platforms. Now, difficulties encountering in accessing the platform. The majority of respondents, so 12 out of 21, reported not having difficulties using the platforms, noting that the only issues they faced were technical beyond their ability to resolve connection problems, weak network, etc. On the other hand, those who did encounter difficulties attributed them to a lack of computer skills or their unfamiliarity with this type of teaching. Also, access difficulties for students, inability to track, manage, and assess students online according to teachers. So despite these challenges, all respondents agreed on their ability to gradually adapt to using these platforms. Now, training to use the platforms. As you can see here, none of the None of the students received any training on how to use the platform provided by the university. However, on the teacher side, half of them took the initiative to seek help from the university's IT staff before conducting online classes to avoid potential difficulties. So when asked if they consider training important, 14 students, just a minute. So 14 students responded that they did not feel it was necessary as they could manage their learning independently through various means. So both teachers and students agree that training is necessary when provided by specialists in the field, as this could help those who experience difficulties. The fifth question differs from students and teachers. So it was, can students rely solely on courses in PDF format, or do they need a lesson explanation? So only 2 students believe that they can rely solely on courses in PDF format, as this would allow them to develop research skills and become more independent without depending on the teacher's explanation. However, on the other side, the majority emphasize the importance of having a teacher during their studies, as they cannot always understand everything on their own without referring to a specialist's explanation or the teacher's explanations, which also depends on the subject matters itself. Now, the question raises, what do teachers think about the reliability of online assessment? So teachers from the 3 universities agreed that on the unreliability of online assessments, because they lack the tools to ensure that students take tests, especially written ones, under appropriate conditions and under the teacher's supervision. So they consider it necessary to focus on developing new software to enhance the effectiveness of online teaching and assessment. They also believe it is essential to think about reliable teaching techniques and methods to conduct online exams and, if possible, online assessments effectively. Let's move now to the discussion of our results. In the entire educational system, there are always strengths and weaknesses that can be leveraged through a program, allowing teachers and students to avoid anything that hinders the smooth running of distance learning. We observed students navigating blindly, often in complete uncertainty, without having clear instructions for using the platform or guidance on how to stay on track and progress calmly with the support of teamwork, an idea that was entirely absent. Similarly, for teachers accustomed to in-person classes with their students, we saw them lose all the standards they were familiar with, both educational and pedagogical, and they struggled to establish new ones in a virtual environment. From a pedagogical perspective, the content and teaching materials remain the same, but it's disappointing to observe that students' reception of them has been problematic. Moreover, in the COVID-19 era, the pedagogical approach to online teaching is no longer the same. Teachers must now rethink their relationships with the learners and reconsider concepts of learning and training. In this new approach, learning refers to the relationship between knowledge and learners, where teachers, in addition to being course designers, become engaged mediators in the teaching process. This shift involves significant pedagogical and administrative work due to the challenges they encountered. Class hours and online teaching challenges. The hours teachers previously spent in face-to-face classes have now doubled, and sometimes even more with online teaching. The results are evident. Teachers are impacted by internet speed and the motivation levels of their students. feeling overwhelmed by the demands of a professional life that increasingly encroaches on their personal and family lives. In addition to the main actors, teachers, and learners, the support of technicians has become essential in the teaching and knowledge sharing process. IT technicians play a vital role in managing technological tools. The clearer the technology, the easier it is for teachers and educators to assess pedagogical knowledge. Thus, we can say that knowledge lies at the center of a fourfold relationship: technician-teacher, teacher-student, and teacher-to-teacher. So, as a conclusion, the interviews conducted with our audience allowed us to assess the effectiveness of online teaching platforms in Algeria, specifically Moodle platform. We were able to identify both the advantages and disadvantages of this teaching mode for students and teachers alike. The difficulties are generally technical, which calls for the state to improve internet quality, network infrastructure, and IT resources to ensure a better experience if this mode of teaching is needed in the coming years. In addition to that, we have observed, however, that despite the technological developments occurring in the world, nothing can replace traditional teaching, where the teacher stands in front of their students in a traditional classroom setting in order to maintain the teacher-student's knowledge relationship. To conclude, if we want to improve e-learning in our country, we must first enhance the connection speed, and provide learners with the necessary resources for that. E-learning would be more important if it is complemented in-person teaching. Having the skills to use technology is essential in the online teaching and learning process. So that's all for my presentation. So thank you so much for your attention and interest.